What is going on, everybody? Non here, and I very rarely get disgusted at behavior in this industry. Um, on the on the LGS side, there's some folks that are really, really good. There's some folks that are really, really bad. When it comes to distribution, there's some distributors that are very, very transparent and black and white, and there's some distributors that muddy the waters, may or may not have favorites, may do things that aren't what we would hope they would do. But neither here nor there, they're private businesses, etc. Cue Wizards of the Coast. So Wizards of the Coast has officially declared war on distribution and on local game stores. And I'm going to walk you guys through this. And I think it's no secret that Wizards of the Coast / Hasbro has been desperately trying to get into big box stores for years. They've been desperately trying to go direct to consumer on Amazon for years. You have the the Cynthia Williams. It cracks me up every time Rudy says spoke because it reminds me of Family Guy scene. Who was like the queen of just trying to dump as much garbage as possible out there. So, and I know a lot of you go through Costco, you go through Sam's Club. There's no Pokemon there. You guys see maybe a magic bundle here and there. There's a bunch of junk tops baseball cards sitting there, or some upper deck hockey cards or something. But generally speaking, we don't often see Magic because big box stores don't carry it because it has never been successful there. Now, cue Spider-Man. We have Micro Center, Micro Penis, whatever you want to call it. So they took a big swing after Final Fantasy, and they decided that they wanted to carry Magic the Gathering and, Pokemon to some extent as well, but they have not been able to get as much Pokemon, or the Pokemon is just selling and it's just off everybody's radar because it's churning so quickly. Also a possibility. But they had an exorbitant amount of Spider-Man collector boxes. They had like 4 master cases of collector boxes at every Micro Center. I actually cleaned mine out. I think it was the week after Christmas when they took them down to $270 each. But anyway, either here or there. So Micro Center, a new entrant. Now, not necessarily big box in the traditional way. They're certainly not as large as Best Buy. Well, they might be as large as Best Buy now, but not as large as Target or Walmart for sure. Certainly not as big as Costco, Best Buy. But then we saw the behavior continue through Avatar, Lord Eclipsed. All the Final Fantasy reprints are showing up in there. We get to Turtles. They carry, and then Strixhaven, and we find out that Strixhaven, all of a sudden, their inventories have been reduced dramatically. 1 master case of collector boxes per store, on average, from random folks who've spoken to managers and looked at the inventory online. And then all of a sudden, we get through the allocation process for us as local game stores going through distribution. We get our bundles, we get our commander decks, we get the Codex bundles. The Codex bundles magically push out 2 weeks. And I think they were always intended to be 2 or 3 weeks behind. Gift bundles generally are. But I know most distribution solicitations, I believe it was the same date, which is April 24th, I think, release date as everything else. So all the orders came in, all the allocations were done. Then we started hearing rumblings of, well, commander displays are going to be pushed back. By the way, the print date on the commander displays are December of 2025. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why they're delayed, unless for some reason they were assembled in Europe. The reason I say that is I did just recently open a pallet of Ixalan, Lost Caverns of Ixalan commander displays, and all the boxes said printed in the USA, but there was a packing label in Spanish from Cartamundi, and it was imported from, I believe, Spain and Portugal. I think it was Spain into the US, which is a little bizarre. So the only thing I can think of with the commander displays is they were somehow assembled overseas, even though the box stamp and the sticker says made in the US. And then they were somehow shipped back, and they were delayed just due to some customs or some tariff stuff or delays in the water. Maybe they were stuck in the Straits of Hormuz. I can't even talk tonight. But when it comes to bundles, I've been racking my brain because there's really nothing special with the bundles. You have your kind of generic promo. And I initially started to associate bundles with commander displays, knowing that they don't really have anything to do with each other. And commander displays, they're able to print much faster because they no longer have the collector sample pack. What I got to, and again, this is just a theory, we saw Secrets of Strixhaven bundles day one for release in every big box store. They were in Walmart, Target. I saw them in Best Buy. They were at Micro Center. So my theory was one of the big box stores, could be Micro Center, could be anyone, saw the success of Secrets of Strixhaven when the spoilers came out, and they saw the hype go through the roof, and they placed a very, very late purchase order of size with Wizards of the Coast. Well, Wizards of the Coast looked at their supply and they said, well, motherfuckers, we can't fill this. So what are we going to do? And I believe what they did, and again, I have no proof, I'm just reading the tea leaves here, was they took all of that supply that was going to go to distribution and go to local game stores, particularly for pre-release, because it is one of the staples of selling product at pre-release. People like to buy bundles, especially on the lower end of the wage spectrum, because it's a bite-sized amount that people can buy, they can open, they get the promos, and it's fun. And I think what Wizards did was they said, okay, you know what? We're going to take all these bundles. We're going to push them out to big box stores. We're going to keep printing these and packing these. And when they come in, we're going to backfill distribution. So the moral of the story is they fucked all of us because we've gotten our first wave of bundles. That's it. So I think right now we're sitting at like 25% of our bundles. We have no idea when the rest of the bundles are coming. I think the supply chain on the WotC side is really, really fucked up, because there are some pretty substantial delays or shortages of paper, because the smarter company, Pokémon, bought it all. So we have no idea when the rest of the regular bundles are coming. So that's great. Great concept. Makes sense to me. Now, let's go to Secrets of Strixhaven Codex bundle. So this is the gift bundle-ish item. There are 2 collector boxes and there are 6 play packs. And by the way, for those of you who haven't put 2 and 2 together, the reason why we have the draft nights and we have the new Codex bundle that has double the number of collector packs is the margins on collector packs are through the roof, as we all know. They cannot create a perception that they've overprinted commander decks, which is what they did with Avatar. It's what they did with Spider-Man. So they've pulled back on the number of actual collector boxes. If I said commander decks, I meant collector boxes. And they've created these SKUs, the draft nights and the extra pack of the Codex bundles, and it allows them to push all of this stuff out, put some cool packaging on, and charge a premium for the product. So that being said, we were supposed to get the Codex bundles right around release initially. It pushed back to May 15th. May 15th was this past Friday. Nobody heard anything. It hadn't landed on distribution. Wizards of the Coast decides to put an email out yesterday, dated the 15th, dated Friday, because these motherfuckers couldn't even get an email out notifying everybody that they're fucking them on time. And it basically says, due to unforeseen circumstances, there's going to be stuff here and there. And, we don't know when it's all going to come in. So, initially my head went to, yeah, you know what? Not a big deal. Same as the bundles. They'll show up when they'll show up. So then I'm reminded that over the weekend, Amazon was dumping Codex bundles from the Magic the Gathering store. Like they were going out of style. Now I know there were some cancellations, but there are an absolute metric fuck ton of these bundles on the market. And I will show you, this is a disparity, and it gets even more fucked up. So we have the Codex bundle cases, and we have 20 cases on the market. So for those of you who don't know, when things go to Walmart or go to Amazon, their warehouses cut every single box and they scan every single barcode. It's their way of inventorying things, make sure they have everything fully transparent. So that's why when you order, or in the past, when you ordered case quantities from Walmart, you got loose cases, you got loose displays, etc. Now, on occasion, you would get a sealed one. I believe that was because it was fulfilled by GT Collectibles, otherwise known as MG Holdings, as opposed to Walmart Fulfillment Services. Neither here nor there. So we have 20 cases, so exactly 120 of these. 6 sealed Codex bundles, Codex bundle with the case open. So these two both came from Amazon or Walmart. So we have that's 6. So we have 14 cases that are here for sale right now. My guess is most of these probably came from Latin American distributors, because as far as I know, nobody in the US has gotten them until today. Shipments started to show up today, potentially yesterday in 1 or 2 warehouses. I don't want to bury the lead. We'll get to that in a second. So we have 14 or 15 sealed cases of Codex, which is the only way it comes from distribution. And then we go to the individual bundles. There are 920 bundles available, and it is all a bunch of random sellers. 19, 11, blah, blah, blah. No name sellers. These are all botter accounts. They just are. So all of this product came from Amazon. It came from Walmart before anybody with distribution or a local game store was able to get their product. So we now have gone from the fucked up to this is really fucked up, because now you have Wizards of the Coast prioritizing their direct-to-consumer on Walmart, where they're able to sell product at a superior price point to what they are with distribution. And they've effectively not fulfilled anything with distribution and nothing for LGSs. So for those of you who don't remember, going back into Tarkir into Final Fantasy, Wizards of the Coast, and this was a thinly veiled effort for them to just gauge how much product to print for Final Fantasy, because they didn't fucking know. They said, we're going to give you a minimum allocation. It is locked. We want you to be absolutely fucking comfortable with your pre-sales. Well, that's long gone. I mean, that lasted for like 3 sets, and then they're like, fuck this. We don't care. We're just going to print more. So now we get all these allocations. Folks have pre-sold stuff. Fortunately, I haven't sold these, because anytime you see a new SKU coming from Wizards of the Coast, it is an abject disaster. So, no harm, no foul from my perspective, other than the fact that as we get to it here, they're not coming, at least the magnitude that we thought. So we have all of this supply that has been sold on Amazon, direct to consumer, sold on Walmart, has already shipped to folks. People have been opening these for a couple weeks now, and we're all sitting here like, hey, we pre-sold this stuff because we have a locked-in allocation. Fuck's the product. So, and then I get the phone call today from one of my distributors. Hey, Anon, I have bad news. It looks like we've started to receive our shipments from Wizards of the Coast, and it looks like they've only shipped to 60% of what we thought we were going to get on the Codex bundles. I'm like, okay, great. More fucking waves. When does the rest come? Well, that's the bad news. It's not fucking coming. So Wizards of the Coast, from this one distributor, has effectively cut their locked-in purchase order to 60% of what they ordered the first time, because they sold it all on fucking Amazon instead of sending it through LGSs and distribution, which you may say, you know what, fuck you guys. Not a big deal. So I call the second distributor. I'm like, hey, so-and-so. I talked to one of my other reps, and he said ABC. What do you think? So he starts looking, and he goes, son of a bitch. I'm like, what? He goes, looks like we've received it in 2 warehouses, and it looks like we've gotten just right around 55% of what we thought we were going to get. I'm like, son of a bitch. So now we have a trend. We have 2 distributors who have gotten 55 to 60% of what they're going to get in a warehouse, one of which said that their buyer was in communications with Wizards of the Coast, who told them, we're not shipping you the rest. You're going to have to deal with what you have. So now we have Wizards of the Coast that has committed purchase orders to distribution. Distribution has turned around and committed allocations to local game stores, such as myself, which, by the way, that is not an obligation. That is an offer. So there's no breach of contract for you Timmies out there that want to lose your shit. And nor is it anybody's fault with distribution whatsoever. And we have our allocation. I'm sure there's 4,000 stores out there that have gotten these, and they've either pre-sold them or they've committed them to certain folks. And now they can't get the product because Wizards of the Coast fucking sold it on Amazon to a bunch of botters, which normally I wouldn't really care about. But they decided that they value selling this more direct to consumer at a higher margin than they do supporting distribution and local game stores. And the only fucking reason that these jackoffs at the top still have a fucking job. So like I said, I'm not bitter because I'm now getting a fraction of what I thought I was going to get. Because at the end of the day, you pay $70 for these, you sell them for $130, and you get a couple hundred of them. You make a couple grand, $7 grand, 14 grand, whatever the number is. I mean, it's great. It's great, but it doesn't move the needle. What does move the needle is now you have 5,000 stores that have to scramble, and they have to talk to fucking folks that paid probably $89.99, $99.99, whatever MSRP is, whatever they sold them for a really fucking expensive product that now they can't get because Wizards of the Coast decided to fuck everybody and scumbag you. I don't really know what else to say about it. It is, to me, it's really, really scummy. But that's where we're at. So I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention because Wizards of the Coast / Chris Cox and his merry fucking idiots, they've decided to declare war on distribution, on local game stores, for the benefit of Amazon direct-to-consumer, Micropenis, and all your big box stores. So this is where we're at. It might be time for pitchforks and torches. I don't know. I'm kind of fed up with it. Because every time they start moving in the right direction, they manage to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And they're so fucking stupid.